Jim Carrey gave the world 40 years of himself. The rubber face, the voice that folded into shapes no one else attempted, the physical comedy so precise it looked effortless, and so demanding it left him wrecked after every take. Audiences consumed all of it and assumed they were getting the whole picture. They were not even close. Behind the performances that made him one of the most recognized comedians alive, a different story was running. One involving people who used his name against him, weaponized his silence, redirected his career without his knowledge, and in one case aimed their cruelty directly at his daughter. He never spoke about any of it until now. 6 people, 6 stories. And the weight behind each one lands harder than any version of these events that circulated in tabloids or entertainment coverage. Tommy Lee Jones earns the first position because of something genuinely uncommon in an industry built on surface pleasantries and managed diplomacy. He told Jim Carrey exactly what he felt, directly, and without softening a word of it. The year was 1994, and Carrey walked onto the Batman Forever production as one of the hottest names in film. Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber had all landed that same year, making him the kind of actor studios competed for. He arrived carrying real admiration for his co-star. Jones had an Academy Award. He carried the reputation of a rigorous craftsman who poured himself completely into every role he accepted, and Carrey respected that profile without reservation. None of it survived the first week of filming together. Jones began complaining to director Joel Schumacher within days, arguing that Carrey's improvisational instincts were pulling every shared scene away from the tone the film needed. Between takes, he spoke loudly and deliberately about what serious actors understood about their work, loud enough to guarantee Carrey caught every word, then refused to maintain eye contact when the cameras came back on. The disdain was not accidental, and it was not quiet. The night the situation reached its actual breaking point came when Carrey spotted Jones eating at a small restaurant near the Warner Brothers lot and walked over expecting nothing more than a brief professional exchange. Jones stood up visibly shaking, pulled him into something that looked like a hug from a distance, and delivered the message with full clarity. He hated him, he could not stand him, and he refused to sanction what he called buffoonery. That same weekend, Dumb and Dumber opened in theaters and demolished Jones's passion project Cobb at the box office, earning more in its first 3 days than Cobb had collected across its entire theatrical run. Jones interpreted that outcome as a professional verdict against everything he valued, and the remaining weeks of production reflected it without disguise. Separate dressing rooms, no shared rehearsal time, no eye contact between scenes, no resolution before the cameras shut down. Carrey had walked into that production genuinely admiring this man. None of that admiration came back. Shia LaBeouf's position on this list originated with a single joke that Carrey delivered at the 2014 Golden Globes, during a period when LaBeouf's plagiarism scandal was still moving through entertainment coverage at full speed. Standing on stage in front of that audience, Carrey smiled and landed the line cleanly. "Dying is easy, comedy is hard." And he believed it was Shia LaBeouf who had said that. So young, so wise. The room responded the way award ceremony audiences respond to a well-timed punchline. LaBeouf did not. What followed wasn't wounded pride or public irritation managed badly. It was something colder and considerably more deliberate. LaBeouf uploaded a clip of Jane Carrey's band online, attached a caption assembled from recycled tabloid rumors about her father's private life, and sourced that material directly from an old Rupert Murdoch rant aimed at Hugh Grant with nothing altered but the names. The sloppiness of the construction made the intention impossible to argue away. People close to Carrey described him as genuinely stunned. Disputes between adults in the entertainment industry carry an unspoken set of understood limits, and pulling someone's child into a retaliatory attack violates those limits regardless of the provocation or the circumstances. LaBeouf deleted the post within 30 minutes and followed it with a tweet that read like something composed under visible panic, but removing the material changed nothing about what posting it had revealed. What observers noticed afterward added a layer that made the episode feel less like a hot-headed mistake and more like something that had been building quietly. During that period, the single account LaBeouf followed on Twitter was Jane Carrey's. The moment the attack went live, he unfollowed her without comment. That sequence, the sustained following, the targeted post, the immediate quiet retreat, did not carry the feel of impulse. It sealed LaBeouf's place on that list without any remaining room for revision. No name here sits closer to the actual center of Carrey's life than Jenny McCarthy, and it remains the one he navigates around carefully whenever interviewers move it close to the surface. The relationship entered public awareness in 2006, and from the outside, it generated the kind of visibility that forms naturally around two recognizable performers occupying the same space. People inside that situation noticed something the public view missed. Evenings together consistently drifted toward autism discussions, vaccine strategy sessions, and media planning meetings organized around McCarthy's activism and her son Evan. Carrey didn't recognize the pattern because he understood himself to be doing something uncomplicated, supporting someone he genuinely cared about. What he couldn't yet see was the shape of what that support was being used to construct. By 2008, his face appeared at public events tied to the anti-vaccine movement, his name attached to a cause through a series of appearances he had never independently chosen to make. McCarthy needed the reach of his celebrity profile behind her message, and the relationship delivered it. As his public identity slowly reshaped itself around a political controversy that had no connection to his career or his actual views, professional offers began quietly contracting. When McCarthy pushed him toward increasingly extreme public statements, Carrey pulled back. Her response, according to people close to both of them during that period, was to criticize him privately for backing away and remind him how many families across the country were counting on his voice to stay in front of the issue. The pressure ran in one direction without interruption. Their separation came in April 2010, and on the surface it appeared civil, two people parting without spectacle. The same week it happened, McCarthy shut down her autism school and issued a statement referencing different visions with her partner. Carrey, who had reportedly planned to buy out her co-founder before the relationship ended, walked away from the entire situation entirely once he walked away from her. 4 years of his public reputation had been slowly redirected towards something he was drawn into rather than something he chose, and the full cost of it only became legible after there was nothing left to recover. Mark Wahlberg manufactured a problem with Jim Carrey using exactly one sentence in a 2009 interview. A reporter raised the subject of celebrities who speak publicly on social or political issues, and Wahlberg delivered his answer without a pause. Actors should shut up and just act. The entertainment industry understood immediately who the comment was aimed at. Carrey, still publicly linked to the vaccine controversy through his relationship with McCarthy, was the obvious and available target. What made the remark register beyond simple disagreement was the biography attached to the person delivering it. Wahlberg's early public career had been defined by arrests, documented violent incidents, and a persona built explicitly on the kind of transgression that doesn't naturally position someone as a moral authority on anyone else's conduct. Carrey chose not to respond publicly, not from agreement, but from something closer to disbelief at the distance between who Wahlberg had publicly been and what he was now claiming to represent. Behind closed doors, Wahlberg reportedly extended the criticism in conversations with industry contacts, arguing that Carrey was making the acting community look irresponsible and doing genuine damage to the business. Those comments circulated. Not long after, incoming projects for Carrey contracted noticeably while Wahlberg's career accelerated without visible disruption. Carrey understood the mechanics of what had taken place. Wahlberg had not been expressing genuine concern about Hollywood's public standing. He had been reinforcing his own carefully managed image by pointing at someone else at a moment of vulnerability, and the industry rewarded the maneuver without asking many questions about the motivation behind it. Jim Carrey never argued with anyone in the Kardashian family. He never needed to. The moment that crystallized his position arrived at a 2017 Harper's Bazaar event where the family appeared as headline celebrities, and a reporter caught Carrey on the red carpet with what should have been a routine question: what brought him there that evening? His answer stopped the interviewer mid-sentence. He said he didn't believe in icons. That was the lowest aiming possibility the culture had managed to produce. The Kardashians were standing a few feet away, being photographed as the evening's primary draw. People present that evening described Carrey as visibly unsettled, watching guests gravitate toward the family while performers with long and specific careers stood at the margins of the room. He muttered something about the Truman Show feeling real, then left before the cameras finished. A Vanity Fair interview the following year gave him the space to say it plainly. The Kardashian phenomenon was not healthy in his view. What disturbed him wasn't the individuals themselves, but what their cultural elevation communicated, a version of the entertainment industry that had dissolved the distinction between building something through sustained craft and simply maintaining visibility through a carefully managed brand. For a comedian who had spent decades developing performance comedy into something physically demanding and technically specific, watching manufactured celebrity occupy the same cultural ground felt like a slow devaluation of everything the work was supposed to mean. Will Smith required no accumulated history with Jim Carrey. A single night assembled the entire case. When Smith walked across the Oscar stage and struck Chris Rock in front of a live broadcast audience, Carrey's reaction wasn't directed at the act in complete isolation. He understood that pressure fractures people, and the moment itself carried complexity. What he found impossible to absorb was the standing ovation that followed, and the conversations taking place backstage where the assault was reframed as protective, as understandable, as evidence of a man standing up for someone he loved. Someone nearby was overheard calling it Smith defending his wife, as though that framing completed a transformation from a live on-camera attack into something worth honoring in front of the whole industry. The statement Carrey issued the following morning moved through entertainment circles with speed. He said he was sickened. He said that if the situation had involved him, he would have sued for $200 million because that footage was going to exist permanently. The number was less the point than the argument it carried. An ordinary person who walked onto a stage and struck a comedian in front of cameras and a live broadcast would have faced immediate removal and serious legal consequences. Smith accepted his trophy, delivered a tearful speech, and received sustained applause from the same room that had just witnessed what happened. Carrey named the gap between those two outcomes exactly for what it was: evidence that accountability in Hollywood operates on a scale determined entirely by the amount of power the person in question holds at that particular moment. Since that night, he has stopped softening his disillusionment with the industry he spent 40 years building inside. Smith didn't merely embarrass himself in Carrey's estimation. He provided the clearest possible demonstration of how the system actually functions when it presents itself as being at its most transparent, and that was the part Carrey could not get past. Jim Carrey built his entire career on the capacity to make people feel something real through performance. 6 people across these stories took portions of that: his name, his public image, his silence, his willingness to trust, and he has stopped performing indifference about any of it.